For 6 months, the galaxy watched as humanity played their hand. Peace talks were supposed to unite, to bridge the gap between species, so the Council thought. What they didn't realize was that humanity wasn't simply negotiating, they were playing the long game. Hidden beneath their calm demeanor was something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. As the galaxy's greatest powers demanded humanity's submission, the truth emerged. Earth had never come to negotiate. They had come to protect. When the ultimatum was given, humans didn't back down. Instead, they triggered a signal that no one understood, a call to arms, an awakening. What the galaxy failed to grasp was that humans, long thought to be on the defensive, had been preparing for this moment. A sleeping giant had just opened its eyes, and now the galaxy would witness humanity's true strength, unforgiving, relentless, and terrifyingly efficient. This isn't just the story of war. This is the story of humanity's place in the universe and the consequences of underestimating us. Asterisk the Broken promised the massive space station Omega. 7 hung in the void like a crystal cathedral, its gleaming spires reaching toward distant stars. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the viewport of the human transport ship Diplomatic Dawn, watching the alien structure grow larger as they approached. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, and today would determine whether peace or war would shape the future. Still hard to believe we're actually here, Dr. Marcus Chin said, joining Elena at the window. The scientist adjusted his glasses, a nervous habit he developed during their long journey from Earth. 6 months ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Elena nodded, but her expression remained serious. And now we're about to find out if the galaxy has room for another species. She had spent weeks preparing for these negotiations, studying alien cultures and customs. The weight of representing all humanity pressed heavily on her shoulders. The docking bay of Omega-7 was enormous, designed to accommodate ships from dozens of different species. As their transport settled onto the landing platform, Elena could see various alien vessels nearby. Some were sleek and elegant, others looked like they had been grown rather than built. Each one represented a different civilization, a different way of thinking about the universe. Remember, Elena told Marcus as they prepared to disembark, "We're here to establish peaceful relations, but we're not here to be weak. Humanity has come too far to bow down to anyone." The station's interior was a marvel of engineering. Corridors wide enough for massive alien forms, gravity fields that could be adjusted for different species, and air filtration systems that could handle dozens of different atmospheric requirements. Elena and Marcus walked through halls filled with creatures that would have been impossible to imagine just months before. They were met by their escort, a tall, ethereal being that seemed to shimmer in the station's light. Council Prime Velterra spoke with a voice like musical chimes. "Welcome, representatives of humanity. The Council has been eager to meet with your species formally." Elena studied the alien carefully. Velterra's species, the Ethereals, were known to be neutral mediators in galactic conflicts. Their ability to sense emotions and intentions made them valuable peacekeepers. "We're honored to be here, Council Prime. Humanity hopes this will be the beginning of a long friendship." The main council chamber was breathtaking. A circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed the galaxy in real time, showing the territories of various species in different colors. Elena counted at least 40 different civilizations represented. The human territory appeared as a small cluster of blue dots near the galaxy's edge. "So few systems," Marcus whispered, looking up at the display. "We're like children compared to these civilizations." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. David was smaller than Goliath, too. The council session began with formal introductions. Elena met representatives from the Saurian Empire, led by the imposing Zarthek, whose reptilian features and scarred hide spoke of a warrior culture. The insectoid hive was represented by several worker drones who spoke in perfect unison. The robotic collective sent geometric constructs that processed information faster than any organic mind. "The question before us today," Council Prime Velterra announced, "is how to integrate humanity into the galactic community." Several council members have expressed concerns about your species' rapid expansion. Zarthek was the first to speak. His voice was deep and threatening. In 6 months, the humans have established colonies on 17 worlds. They spread like a disease, consuming resources and claiming territory without regard for established borders. Elena stood to respond. We've been careful to avoid any systems claimed by other species. Every colony we've established is in previously uninhabited space. Uninhabited by intelligent life corrected one of the insectoid drones. But many of those worlds held resources that other species intended to claim. Your rapid expansion disrupts the natural order. Dr. Chen leaned forward. With respect, we're simply trying to ensure our species' survival. Earth's population is growing, and we need additional worlds to sustain our civilization. A mechanical voice spoke from the robotic collective's representative. Analysis indicates that human expansion will continue at exponential rates. Projection shows human territory will increase by 400% within 10 years. This creates resource competition and territorial disputes. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. These weren't just casual observations. The aliens had been studying human expansion patterns in detail. We're willing to discuss reasonable limits on expansion, but we won't accept restrictions that would doom our species to stagnation. Council Prime Velterra raised a delicate hand. The Council has prepared a proposal that would address these concerns while providing humanity with a place in the galactic community. A holographic document appeared before Elena and Marcus. As they read through it, Elena's face grew pale. The proposal was essentially a demand for surrender disguised as a peace treaty. You're asking us to abandon our outer colonies, Elena said, her voice tight, with controlled anger. To withdraw to our core systems and accept a population limit enforced by alien oversight. Zarthek's scaled lips curved in what might have been a smile. The terms are generous. Your species would be granted protected status. The Council would ensure your survival within appropriate boundaries. Protected status? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. You mean we'd become a client species, dependent on alien charity for our survival? The insectoid representative spoke again. Your species shows dangerous tendencies. Individual initiative, territorial expansion, resource exploitation. These traits must be controlled for the good of the galaxy. Elena stood up, her hands clenched into fists. Those dangerous tendencies are what brought us to the stars. They're what make us human. We won't abandon them just because they make you uncomfortable. Then you choose conflict, Zarthek growled. The Council has tried to offer you peace. If you refuse our generous terms, we will be forced to implement containment measures. The word containment sent a shock through Elena. She had studied enough history to know what that meant. You're threatening war. Council Prime Velterra's expression remained neutral, but Elena caught a flicker of something in the alien's eyes. Regret? Or was it anticipation? The Council hopes it won't come to that. But the galaxy cannot allow an uncontrolled expansion of your species. Elena looked around the chamber, seeing the faces of dozens of alien species. Some looked sympathetic, others appeared hungry for conflict. A few seemed simply curious about what humanity would do next. We need time to consider this proposal, Elena said, finally. Time is a luxury we cannot afford, Zarthek replied. Human expansion continues even as we speak. Your colony ships are already en route to 6 new systems. The Council requires an answer now. Elena felt her heart racing. This wasn't negotiation, it was an ultimatum. She glanced at Marcus, who nodded slightly. They both understood what was about to happen. Then our answer is no, Elena said clearly. Humanity will not accept containment. We'll find our own path among the stars. The chamber erupted in voices speaking dozens of different languages. Some aliens seemed pleased, others appeared shocked. Zarthek's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. So be it, the Saurian leader declared. The Council will take necessary measures to protect the galaxy from human expansion. You have chosen poorly, Captain Vasquez. Elena's hand moved to a small device on her wrist. It looked like a standard timepiece, but it contained humanity's most closely guarded secret. No, Zarthek, you have... She pressed a hidden button, sending a coded signal across space at faster than light speed. The message was simple. 3 short pulses, 3 long ones, 3 short ones again. An ancient Earth distress signal that now carried new meaning. What have you done? Council Prime Velterra demanded. Elena smiled grimly. I've told my people that the galaxy has chosen war over peace. They'll be interested to hear that. Marcus stood beside her, his earlier nervousness replaced by quiet determination. You've all made a serious miscalculation. You think you understand humanity because you've watched our merchant ships and colony transports, but you've never seen what we're really capable of. Zarthek laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Your species has perhaps 200 ships. The Saurian Empire alone commands over 10,000 vessels. The combined fleets of the Council number in the hundreds of thousands. Numbers aren't everything, Elena replied, but I suppose you'll learn that soon enough. The aliens began to disperse, some heading to their ships to prepare for what was coming. Elena and Marcus walked calmly toward the docking bay, ignoring the hostile stares following them. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked quietly. Elena looked out at the stars through a viewport. Somewhere out there, humanity was receiving her signal. Military commanders were opening sealed orders, colony governors were activating hidden defenses, and the true face of human civilization was about to be revealed. Marcus, we came here hoping for peace, but we've always been prepared for war. The aliens think they're dealing with a species of helpless explorers. They're about to discover that every human colony, every human ship, every human outpost was designed with one purpose in mind. What purpose? Elena's smile was cold as space itself. To survive, and to make sure that anyone who threatens human children pays the price for their mistake. As their transport left Omega 7, Elena watched the alien fleets beginning to gather. They moved with confident precision, certain of their superiority. They had no idea that they were about to face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The peace talks had failed. Now, the galaxy would learn what humanity looked like when it stopped pretending to be harmless. The age of gentle first contact was over. The age of human determination was about to begin. In the depths of space, Elena's signal raced toward Earth at impossible speed. Soon, every human world would know that diplomacy had failed. Soon, the galaxy would understand that there was a difference between human kindness and human weakness. The aliens wanted war. They were about to get more than they had bargained for. The sleeping giant awakens. The emergency signal from Captain Vasquez reached Earth in 18 hours. President Maria Rodriguez sat in the Situation Room beneath the Capitol, surrounded by monitors showing real-time data from across human space. The message was brief but devastating. Negotiations failed. Aliens demand surrender. War is inevitable. Admiral Sarah Mitchell, commander of the Terran Defense Force, stood at the head of the table. Her weathered face showed no emotion as she processed the information. Madam President, we have reports of alien fleet movements in 17 sectors. They're moving faster than anticipated. How long until they reach our outer colonies? Rodriguez asked. First contact in 36 hours, replied General Rico Santos, his cybernetic eye glowing as he accessed tactical data. They're targeting the agricultural worlds first. They think they can starve us into submission. Rodriguez nodded grimly. She had hoped diplomacy would work, but humanity had learned hard lessons throughout its history. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Sarah, it's time. Admiral Mitchell's hand moved to a secure console. Are you certain, Madam President? Once we activate Protocol Lazarus, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are. The galaxy made its choice when it decided to threaten human children, Rodriguez replied. Do it. Mitchell entered a series of codes that had been classified at the highest levels. Across human space, hidden transmitters began broadcasting a simple message. The mask is off. Show them who we are. On the agricultural world of New Eden, Farmer Tom Bradley received the signal as he worked in his fields. The transmission came through on his personal communicator using frequencies that officially didn't exist. Tom looked at his crops, at the peaceful settlement his family had helped build, and then walked to his barn. Inside, hidden beneath false floors and concealed panels, lay enough military hardware to equip a regiment. Tom's farmhouse wasn't just a home, it was a disguised fortress. Every civilian structure on New Eden had been built with hidden defensive positions and weapons caches. "Attention, all residents," Tom announced over the colony's communication system. "This is not a drill. Protocol Lazarus is now in effect. All civilians report to designated shelters. All military personnel assume combat positions." The transformation was remarkable. Within hours, New Eden changed from a peaceful farming community into a military stronghold. The grain silos opened to reveal missile launchers. The irrigation systems converted to defensive networks. Even the children's playground contained hidden bunkers. Similar scenes played out across dozens of human worlds. The mining colony on Kepler 442b revealed that half its population were actually soldiers. The research station orbiting Gliese 667c deployed weapons that had been disguised as scientific instruments. Every human settlement had been built with the possibility of war in mind. In space, the transformation was even more dramatic. The cargo ship Peaceful Endeavor received the activation signal while traveling between systems. Captain Lisa Park, who had been posing as a merchant trader, walked to her ship's computer and entered a command that had been programmed months ago. Panels on the ship's hull suddenly retracted, revealing hidden weapon systems. The cargo bay floor opened to launch a squadron of fighter craft. Within minutes, the Peaceful Endeavor had become the attack cruiser Retribution. "This is Captain Park to all units in the Tau Ceti system," she transmitted. "The pretense is over. All ships, reveal your true configurations and prepare for combat." Across human space, hundreds of civilian vessels underwent similar transformations. Exploration ships became destroyers. Transport vessels became assault carriers. Even the smallest courier ships carried enough firepower to destroy alien cruisers. The aliens had been watching human expansion for months, counting what they believed to be a small fleet of peaceful vessels. They had no idea that humanity's real military was 10 times larger than their estimates. Admiral Mitchell commanded the primary response from Earth. Her flagship, the Defiant, led a fleet of ships that had been hidden in the asteroid belt. To alien observers, they appeared to be mining platforms. In reality, they were some of the most advanced warships ever built. "Ma'am," reported Commander Jessica Wong from the tactical station, "we're receiving reports from all sectors. The charade is complete. Enemy fleets are approaching our outer colonies, but they're facing much heavier resistance than expected." The first real battle occurred at the Kepler 438 system. The Saurian Empire sent a fleet of 50 ships to destroy the human colony there. They expected to find a few defensive platforms and perhaps a patrol ship or two. Instead, they encountered a fully armed military base defended by a task force of 30 human warships. Commander David Chun, Elena's younger brother, led the defense. His ship, the Vengeance, had been disguised as a scientific vessel for months. Now it showed its true nature as a heavy cruiser bristling with weapons. Saurian vessels, Chun transmitted, "This is Commander Chun of the Terran Defense Force. You are in violation of human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zarthek's son, war leader Kethran, commanded the Saurian fleet. His response was predictable. "Human insects, you cannot threaten the mighty Saurian Empire. We will crush your pathetic defenses and claim this world for our own." The battle that followed shocked the galaxy. The Saurian ships attacked with the confidence of a superior force, but they found themselves facing an enemy that fought with precision and ruthless efficiency. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, their weapons striking with devastating accuracy. The aliens had expected primitive technology and simple tactics. Instead, They encountered advanced defensive systems, coordinated battle plans, and weapons designed specifically to counter known alien capabilities. Human intelligence had been gathering information about alien military technology for months, using every diplomatic contact as an opportunity to learn enemy weaknesses. Within 3 hours, the Saurian fleet was destroyed. Only one ship escaped, carrying news of the disaster back to the Empire. Kethran's final transmission was heard across the galaxy. They fight like demons. This is not the weak species we were told about. Similar battles erupted across human space. The insectoid hive sent massive swarms of fighters to overwhelm human defenses, only to discover that human point defense systems had been designed specifically to counter swarm tactics. The robotic collective's precise battle calculations were disrupted by human unpredictability and creative tactics that on Earth. President Rodriguez received reports from the battlefronts. The aliens are retreating from 6 sectors, General Santos reported. They're regrouping and calling for reinforcements. How many casualties? Rodriguez asked. Minimal on our side, Admiral Mitchell replied. We lost 3 ships and maybe 50 personnel. The aliens have lost over 200 vessels and thousands of crew members. Rodriguez felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Humanity had proven its strength, but at what cost? They still outnumber us significantly. This was just the first wave. The alien response was swift and overwhelming. The Galactic Council authorized the deployment of combined fleets from a dozen species. Over 5,000 ships began converging on human space, determined to crush this unexpected resistance. But humanity had more surprises in store. The signal from Earth reached not just military units, but civilian populations across human space. Every human colony, every human ship, every human installation had been preparing for this moment. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, who had been studying alien technology at the research station on Proxima Centauri, received her activation orders. The xenobiologist was actually a military engineer who had been developing new weapon systems. Her laboratory contained prototypes that could change the course of the war. Computer, declassify Project Stormbreaker, she commanded. Hidden chambers in the station opened to reveal weapons that used principles unknown to alien science. Gravity manipulators that could tear ships apart. Energy dampeners that could disable entire fleets. Nanite swarms that could consume enemy vessels from within. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's peaceful facade had hidden not just military strength, but technological innovation driven by the necessity of survival. Every human scientist, every human engineer, every human thinker had been working toward one goal: ensuring that humanity would never be at the mercy of alien aggression. Captain James Reaper Thompson led an elite squadron of human fighters in the defense of the Barnard Star System. His ships looked like standard patrol craft, but they carried experimental weapons that could punch through alien armor like paper. When a Saurian battle group arrived expecting easy prey, they found themselves facing humanity's finest pilots flying humanity's deadliest machines. All right, Reapers, Thompson transmitted to his squadron. Time to show these lizards what happens when they threaten human families. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and make every shot count. The battle was a masterpiece of human warfare. Thompson's pilots used tactics that confused and terrified the aliens. They fought with an intensity that seemed impossible, taking risks that no rational being would consider. But they weren't just fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for their children, their future, and their right to exist among the stars. As news of human resistance spread across the galaxy, some alien species began to reconsider their positions. The Aquatic Federation, which had joined the Alliance reluctantly, sent secret messages to human representatives. The Crystalline Collective, impressed by human ingenuity, began quietly withdrawing from combat zones. The galaxy was learning that humanity was not the weak species they had assumed. Every human victory revealed new capabilities, new technologies, new levels of determination. The aliens had expected a quick war against an inferior foe. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with each battle. In the depths of space, Ancient sensors recorded the conflict. Nexus 9, an artificial intelligence older than most galactic civilizations, analyzed the data with growing interest. This new species fought differently than any other. They didn't fight for conquest or dominance. They fought for survival, for protection, for the right to exist. And they were very, very good at it. The sleeping giant had awakened. Now, the galaxy would learn what humanity looked like when it stopped pretending to be harmless. The real war was just beginning. When Earth's children fight back, the war had raged for 3 months when the galaxy realized its mistake. What began as a simple containment action against an expanding species had become a conflict that threatened to tear apart the established order. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching displays that showed the true scope of human resistance. Admiral, reported Commander Wong, we're receiving surrender requests from 6 species. The Crystalline Collective, the Aquatic Federation, and 4 minor systems are requesting immediate ceasefire. Mitchell nodded grimly. What about the primary alliance? The Saurian Empire, the Insectoid Hive, the Robotic Collective? Still committed to the war, Wong replied, but their losses are mounting. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for one final massive assault. The transformation of human space was complete. Every colony, every ship, every installation had revealed its true nature. The galaxy had thought it was dealing with a few hundred peaceful vessels. Instead, it faced a military force of over 10,000 ships, supported by defensive networks that had been planned for decades. Captain James Reaper Thompson's squadron had become legendary among both human and alien forces. His pilots, struck without warning, appeared where they were least expected, and fought with a ferocity that terrified enemy commanders. The aliens had begun calling them the Ghosts of Sol, ships that seemed to materialize from nothing to deliver death and destruction. Reaper Squadron, this is command, came Admiral Mitchell's voice over the secure channel. We have a priority target. The Saurian Empire is massing their entire fleet for an assault on Earth. Intelligence suggests they're bringing planet-killer weapons. Thompson's scarred face showed no emotion. Understood, command. How many ships? Over 2,000, including their flagship Dominator. This is their final gambit. If they can destroy Earth, they think humanity will surrender. Thompson smiled coldly. They still don't understand us, do they? Very well. Reaper Squadron will show them what happens when you threaten the human homeworld. The Saurian fleet approached the Sol system with confidence born of desperation. War leader Kethran, who had barely survived the earlier battles, commanded the armada from the massive dreadnought Dominator. The ship was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Finally, Kethran growled to his officers, "We will strike at the heart of human space. Once Earth burns, these defiant insects will learn their place in the galaxy." But the Saurians were not the only ones preparing for this final battle. President Rodriguez had authorized the activation of humanity's most closely guarded secret, the Sol Defense Network. Hidden throughout the solar system, concealed within asteroids and space stations, lay weapons that had been built in absolute secrecy. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, working from her concealed laboratory, had completed her most devastating creation. The Singularity Cannon could create artificial black holes, tearing apart enemy ships at the molecular level. It was a weapon so terrible that humanity had hoped never to use it. Dr. Harper, came Admiral Mitchell's voice. Are you ready? Elizabeth looked at the massive weapon she had spent years perfecting. Admiral, once we use this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know that humanity possesses weapons that can destroy entire fleets. The galaxy chose this path when it decided to threaten our children, Mitchell replied. Fire when ready. The Battle of Sol began when the Saurian fleet emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. They expected to find a few defensive platforms and maybe a patrol fleet. Instead, they encountered a military force that defied their understanding of human capabilities. The asteroid belt suddenly came alive with weapons fire. What the aliens had assumed were mining platforms revealed themselves as massive artillery stations. The moons of Jupiter deployed fighter squadrons that had been hidden in underground hangars. Even the scientific stations orbiting the gas giant transformed into military installations. "This is impossible," transmitted Kethran as his fleet took devastating losses. "Our intelligence reported minimal defenses in this system." "Your intelligence was wrong," replied a human voice. Captain Thompson's squadron appeared out of the darkness, their ships moving with deadly precision. "This is our home. Did you really think we'd leave it undefended?" The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Saurians fought with the fury of a dying empire, but they faced an enemy that fought for something more precious than territory or resources. They fought for their families, their world, their very existence. The Singularity Cannon fired for the first time, creating a black hole that consumed an entire Saurian battle group. The weapon's power terrified both sides. But Elizabeth Harper's voice carried across the communication channels. "This is what humanity creates when you threaten our children. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." The psychological effect was devastating. Alien crews who had fought bravely against conventional weapons broke under the strain of facing weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. The carefully maintained alliance began to fracture as species realized they were fighting an enemy capable of destroying them utterly. The insectoid hive was the first to break. Their collective consciousness, designed for perfect coordination, couldn't process the level of destruction human weapons could inflict. The Queen herself sent a message to Earth: "We yield. The hive acknowledges human supremacy. Please show mercy." The robotic collective's response was more analytical, but equally terrified. Their calculations showed that continued resistance would result in a 97% probability of total annihilation. They too sued for peace, offering to share their technology in exchange for survival. But the Saurian Empire fought on, driven by pride and Kethran's refusal to admit defeat. The Dominator pressed forward toward Earth, its planet-killer weapon charging for a final desperate strike. That's when humanity showed its true nature. Captain Thompson's squadron, supported by every human ship in the system, moved to intercept the massive dreadnought. They weren't just fighting to protect Earth. They were fighting to protect the idea that no species should bow to tyranny. "All ships, this is Reaper," Thompson transmitted. "That ship carries a weapon that can destroy our world. We stop it here, or everyone we love dies. For Earth. For humanity, for the future of freedom in the galaxy." The final assault on the Dominator was a masterpiece of human courage and ingenuity. Ships that had been damaged in earlier battles limped into position for suicide runs. Pilots who had been wounded continued fighting for medical bays. Engineers worked frantically to keep weapons systems operational as their ships fell apart around them. The battle reached its climax when Thompson's own ship, the Vengeance, was heavily damaged by Saurian fire. With his engines failing and his weapons offline, he made a decision that would become legend across the galaxy. "This is Reaper to all ships," he transmitted calmly. "I'm going to ram their command center. Tell my family I died protecting them." But before Thompson could complete his sacrifice, something unexpected happened. The Dominator suddenly stopped firing. Alien voices filled the communication channels, speaking in languages humans didn't recognize. "What's happening?" Admiral Mitchell demanded. The answer came from an unexpected source. Nexus 9, the ancient AI that had been observing the conflict, materialized as a hologram on the bridge of the Defiant. "Admiral Mitchell, I am Nexus 9. I have been watching this conflict with great interest." "Who are you?" Mitchell asked. "I am older than most civilizations in this galaxy. I have seen species rise and fall, empires emerge and crumble. But I have never seen anything like humanity." The ancient AI gestured toward the tactical display. "Most species fight for conquest, for resources, for dominance. Your species fights for something far more powerful. You fight for each other. You fight for the right to exist as free beings. This makes you dangerous to tyrants, but invaluable to those who seek genuine peace." Nexus 9's intervention had paralyzed the Saurian fleet. The ancient AI had taken control of their communication systems, broadcasting the truth about human nature to every ship in the alien armada. "Hear me, warriors of the galaxy," Nexus 9 announced. "You have been fighting the wrong enemy. Humanity seeks not to conquer, but to protect. They have shown mercy to those who surrender, compassion to those who yield. This is not a species to be contained. This is a species to be celebrated." The effect was immediate and profound. Saurian crews who had been told they were fighting monsters discovered they were fighting people who valued life above all else. When human ships moved to rescue alien survivors from destroyed vessels, even the most hardened warriors began to question their cause. Kethran, isolated on his flagship, made one final desperate attempt to fire the planet killer. But his own crew, influenced by Nexus 9's words and horrified by what they had witnessed, refused to obey. The war leader found himself alone, abandoned by his own people. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez," came a familiar voice over the communication system. She had returned from her diplomatic mission, but now she commanded a battle cruiser instead of a transport. "War leader Kethran, your war is over. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you refuse to show us." The surrender of the Saurian Empire marked the end of the war, but the beginning of a new age. Species that had fought against humanity now sought to understand them. The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous enemy was not the one that looked the most fierce, but the one that fought for the right reasons. President Rodriguez addressed the Galactic Council from the rebuilt Station Omega-7, but now she spoke as the representative of the galaxy's newest power. "We didn't want this war," she said to the assembled aliens. "We came in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation. But when you threatened our children, our families, our future, you learned what humanity becomes when pushed too far." The council chamber was different now. Many of the species that had demanded human containment were conspicuously absent, their representatives either dead or too ashamed to attend. Those who remained looked at the human president with a mixture of fear and respect. "The question now," Rodriguez continued, "is what kind of galaxy we build together. We can choose cooperation and mutual protection, or we can continue the cycle of fear and aggression that led to this war." Ambassador Lisa Park, who had taken Elena Vasquez's place as chief diplomat, presented humanity's proposal for a new galactic order. It was radical in its simplicity, a mutual defense pact that protected all species from aggression, overseen by a council where every civilization had an equal voice. "But who will enforce this peace?" asked the representative from the Aquatic Federation. Her gills fluttering nervously, Admiral Mitchell stepped forward. "We will. Humanity will serve as peacekeepers, not rulers. Any species that threatens civilian populations or attempts conquest will face our response. But any species that seeks genuine peace will find us the most loyal allies in the galaxy." The transformation that followed was remarkable. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves working together under human protection. The Crystalline Collective shared their energy technology. The Aquatic Federation offered their biotechnological advances. Even the Robotic Collective contributed their computational expertise to the new galactic database. Captain Thompson, now promoted to admiral after his heroic actions, established the peacekeeping fleet. Human ships patrolled the major trade routes, not as conquerors but as protectors. Their presence ensured that weaker species could trade and explore without fear of predation by stronger neighbors. The psychological effect of human protection was profound. For the first time in galactic history, species didn't need to maintain massive military forces just to survive. Resources that had been devoted to weapons and warfare could be redirected to science, art, and exploration. Dr. Harper's research facilities became centers of cooperative science. Alien scientists worked alongside human researchers, combining different approaches to solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. The weapons that had terrified alien fleets were now turned toward peaceful purposes: asteroid mining, planetary terraforming, and deep space exploration. But perhaps the most significant change was cultural. The galaxy had learned that strength didn't have to mean aggression, that power could be used to protect rather than dominate. Human values, the protection of the innocent, the importance of individual freedom, the willingness to sacrifice for others, began to spread to other species. The former war leader Kethran, now stripped of his rank and titles, found himself assigned to work in human refugee camps. His job was to help care for the survivors of the war, including many of his own people who had been wounded in the fighting. The experience changed him profoundly. "I do not understand," he told Elena Vasquez during one of her visits to the camps. "We tried to destroy you. We threatened your families, your worlds, your very existence. Why do you show us mercy?" Elena smiled sadly. "Because that's what makes us human, Kethran. We fight ferociously when threatened, but we don't fight for revenge. We fight to protect. Once the threat is over, the fighting stops." The former Saurian warrior looked around at the camp, where human medics worked tirelessly to heal alien wounded, where human engineers built shelters for displaced families, where human teachers helped alien children learn to read and write. "Your species is strange," he said, finally. "Dangerous in war, but gentle in peace. I begin to understand why Nexus 9 called you invaluable." The ancient AI had become something of a celebrity in the new galactic order. Nexus 9's vast knowledge and impartial perspective made it an ideal mediator for disputes between species. But more importantly, its endorsement of humanity had legitimized their role as peacekeepers in the eyes of species that might otherwise have resented human authority. Humanity represents something new in galactic evolution, Nexus 9 explained during a public broadcast watched by trillions of beings across the galaxy. Most species develop either as predators or prey. Humans developed as protectors. They are predators when they need to be, gentle when they can afford to be, but always focused on the protection of the innocent. 5 years after the war ended, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of New Omega Station, the massive space station that had replaced the destroyed Council facility. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docking peacefully, their crews working together on joint missions of exploration, and discovered that a young ensign approached her, a crystalline being whose people had once been humanity's enemies. "Captain Vasquez, the new deep space exploration mission is ready to depart. The joint crew includes representatives from 23 different species." Elena nodded, watching the massive exploration vessel Unity as it prepared for departure. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining the best technologies from across the galaxy. Its mission was to explore the galactic rim, searching for new worlds and new civilizations to welcome into the growing community of peaceful species. "Captain," the young alien continued, "may I ask you something? My people's historical records show that your species was capable of such destruction, such violence. Yet you chose to build rather than destroy. Why?" Elena thought for a moment, remembering the dark days when war seemed inevitable, when humanity had revealed its true military might to a shocked galaxy. "Because destruction is easy, ensign. Any species can learn to kill, to conquer, to dominate. But it takes wisdom to know when to stop fighting. It takes courage to choose protection over revenge. And it takes hope to believe that former enemies can become friends." The Unity engaged its engines and began its journey toward the unknown regions of the galaxy. On board, human officers worked alongside alien crew members who had once been enemies. They carried with them the values that humanity had fought to protect, the sanctity of life, the importance of freedom, and the belief that all intelligent beings deserve the chance to reach for the stars. In the depths of space, other civilizations watched and learned. The human example had shown that a species could be both powerful and peaceful, that strength could serve protection rather than conquest. The galaxy was changing, becoming a place where the weak could flourish under the protection of the strong, where cooperation replaced competition, where fear gave way to hope. The war that had begun with humanity's refusal to accept containment had ended with humanity's voluntary acceptance of responsibility. They had become the galaxy's guardians not through conquest, but through choice. They protected not because they had to, but because they wanted to, and in quiet moments when the diplomatic meetings were over and the peacekeeping patrols had returned to base, humanity remembered the lesson they had taught the galaxy, that the most dangerous species in the universe was not the one that looked the most fierce, but the one that loved its children enough to fight for their future. The galaxy had wanted to contain humanity. Instead, humanity had embraced the galaxy, showing by example that peace was not weakness, that mercy was not surrender, and that the greatest strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. The age of human determination had become the age of galactic cooperation. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, new civilizations looked toward the light of human space and knew that they would find not conquerors, but protectors waiting to welcome them home.